The Forbidden Alliance. The battlefield was silent now, but the silence was heavy. Smoke rose from broken machines. The smell of fire mixed with the smell of blood. The earth was black, burned by weapons that could end a life in seconds. Broken helmets, shattered guns, and the bodies of both human and alien soldiers lay everywhere. A single man walked among the ruins. His uniform was torn, his face dirty with dust, and his arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. His name was Sergeant Daniel, Ward, but everyone in the camp just called him Ward. He was a soldier of the Earth Defense Force, one of many sent to fight the war against the alien giants. But today, Ward was alone. His squad had fallen. The radio was dead. And in the middle of the destroyed valley, he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. It was one of them. 8 feet tall, shoulders like steel walls, skin covered in strange markings that looked almost alive. The alien's chest rose and fell slowly. It was still breathing. Ward's training screamed inside his head. Finish it. Kill it before it kills you. That was the rule. That was the law. Humans and these giants were enemies. No friendship, no mercy. But Ward didn't move. The alien turned its head, eyes glowing faintly in the smoke. Those eyes were not filled with hate now. They were filled with pain. It tried to rise, but its leg was broken. Its hand clutched at the ground as if trying to crawl away. For the first time, Ward saw not a monster, but a wounded soldier, just like him. He tightened his grip on the rifle. One shot, that's all it would take. His finger brushed the trigger, but something inside him whispered, "Don't." Ward lowered his weapon slowly. His heart pounded in his chest. He remembered the faces of his fallen squad, his friends who hated these creatures. He remembered the commander's voice. These giants will never stop until humanity is gone. They are not like us. They cannot feel. They cannot care. But was that true? Ward wasn't so sure anymore. The alien growled low, a sound like thunder in its throat. Ward froze. For a second, he thought it was preparing to strike. But the alien's eyes closed, as if it no longer had the strength to fight. Ward reached into his pack and pulled out a canteen of water. He hesitated, then stepped closer. The ground crunched under his boots. The alien's eyes opened again, watching him with suspicion and confusion. Ward crouched, holding the water out. His voice was low, cautious. "Take it, if you want to live." The alien stared at him. A long moment passed. Then, slowly, it reached out with a massive hand, claws scraping the dirt. The canteen looked small, almost like a toy in its grip. The alien raised it to its mouth and drank. Water spilled down its chin, but it drank greedily. Ward exhaled. His own fear began to fade, replaced by something else. Curiosity. The alien let out a rough sound, almost like a word. Ward couldn't understand it, but the tone wasn't hostile, it was grateful. For the first time in history, a human soldier and an alien giant sat together in the ruins of battle, not as enemies, but as survivors. But Ward knew what this meant. If the others found out, if the commanders discovered this, he would be called a traitor. Helping the enemy was a crime. He looked around the valley again. No one was watching. No one would believe him if he told the truth. The alien spoke again, words broken and strange. Ward shook his head. "I don't understand you," he muttered. The alien tapped its chest. "Crag." Ward realized it was giving him its name. "Crag," Ward repeated quietly. The alien nodded once, slow and heavy. Then Ward tapped his own chest. "Ward." The alien's mouth curled, almost like a smile. For a long while, they just sat there. Man and giant. Two soldiers who should have killed each other. But instead, they shared silence. They shared breath. And in that silence, something impossible began to grow. Not trust, not yet, but the seed of it. Ward tightened the strap on his rifle and stood up. He knew he should walk away. He should leave the alien to die. That would be the safe choice, the loyal choice. But he didn't. Instead, he looked back down at the massive figure, still clutching the broken leg. Ward spoke, softly. "Don't die yet. We're not finished." The alien's glowing eyes narrowed, but there was no hatred, only a strange, quiet understanding. And at that moment, Ward felt it. A bond, invisible but strong, something no human or alien had ever dared before. He had crossed the line, the forbidden line, and nothing would ever be the same again. Fear and respect. The night fell quickly over the battlefield. The fires burned low and the silence grew heavy. Ward sat near the alien giant, his rifle still within reach. The alien, Crag, breathed slowly, his chest rising and falling like a mountain. Every shadow looked dangerous. Every sound of metal groaning in the wind felt like an enemy waiting. Ward knew he was breaking every rule by staying here. If his commanders found out, he would be executed for treason, but something deep inside him told him to stay. He wasn't sure if it was courage or madness. The watchers in the dark. Ward's hand gripped the rifle tighter as Crag stirred. The giant's glowing eyes opened again, scanning the ruins around them. For a moment, Ward thought the alien might lunge at him. Instead, Crag only shifted, groaning in pain as his broken leg dragged against the dirt. The sound was raw, full of anger, but not at Ward. Ward whispered to himself, "If you wanted me dead, I'd be dead already." Still, his heart raced every time Crag moved. Fear and respect wrestled inside him. This alien was powerful even in weakness. Ward knew that if Crag recovered fully, he could crush him with a single blow, and yet here he was, choosing not to. Why? The approach of men. The sound of footsteps broke the silence. Ward froze. From the distance came the voices of human soldiers. "Searching the ruins. Check every sector," one shouted. "Don't leave any alien alive." Ward's stomach dropped. If they found Crag, it was over. His own men would kill the alien instantly, and if they saw Ward protecting it, they would kill him too. Crag's head turned, eyes narrowing as he heard the voices. He growled low, ready to fight. Ward shook his head quickly, pressing a finger to his lips. "Quiet," he whispered. "Stay quiet, or we're both dead." The alien giant stared at him, eyes glowing in the dark, then gave the smallest nod. Ward felt a strange chill. This was trust, fragile and dangerous. The voices drew closer, boots crunching on metal and ash. Ward slid down beside Crag, rifle in hand, pointing it toward the ruins. His heart thundered. One soldier called out, "Ward, is that you?" Ward froze, his throat went dry. Should he answer? If he stayed silent, they might pass. But silence could also mean suspicion. Crag's massive hand moved slightly, claws brushing the dirt. Ward felt the tension like lightning in the air. Finally, he shouted back, "Yeah, I'm here." The voices paused. Then a reply came. "We'll sweep the north side. Stay sharp." Ward waited, every muscle in his body tight until the footsteps faded away. Only then did he let out the breath he was holding. Crag's deep voice rumbled a single strange word. Ward didn't understand it, but the tone was clear. It meant survival, respect. The first exchange, Ward looked at the alien giant again. Crag's body was covered in scars, old battles, old pain. The war had left its mark on him just as it had on Ward. He muttered softly, almost to himself, "You're not a monster, are you? You're just a soldier. Same as me." Crag tilted his head. He couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the meaning. Slowly, he reached toward Ward, not to strike, but to return the canteen. His massive hand held it gently, like it was something precious. Ward took it back carefully. Their hands brushed for a second, human skin against alien claw. It was a simple touch, but it carried the weight of history. No human and alien had ever touched without bloodshed before. For the first time, Ward felt a spark of something stronger than fear. Respect. The test of strength. Suddenly, Crag shifted, trying to rise to his feet. He stumbled, his injured leg buckling beneath him. Ward stepped forward without thinking, grabbing the giant's arm to steady him. His body shook under the sheer weight and power of the alien's muscles. Crag looked down at him, eyes glowing brighter. For a moment, Ward thought he might crush him for daring to touch. Instead, the alien grunted, leaning on him. It wasn't surrender. It was something else. A test. Ward's arms shook, but he refused to let go. Inch by inch, he steadied Crag until the giant lowered himself back down to the ground. Crag's deep voice rumbled again, this time softer. A word that almost sounded like approval. Ward's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He realized something. This alien respected strength not just in battle but in spirit. And somehow, Ward had passed the test. The silent pact. The night grew colder. The stars watched silently above as human soldier and alien giant sat together, alive only because of each other. Ward whispered into the darkness, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I think we need each other." Crag's glowing eyes fixed on him. He didn't answer in words, but in the way his massive frame stayed still, unthreatening, steady. It wasn't friendship. Not yet. It wasn't trust. Not fully. But it was respect. And that was enough to change everything. And as Ward sat there, gripping his rifle, he couldn't shake the thought that echoed in his mind. If my own people knew what I just did, they would call me a traitor. But in his heart, he felt the truth. This wasn't betrayal. This was survival. This was the beginning of something forbidden and unstoppable. Secrets shared, the dawn was red. Not the red of a sunrise, but the red of smoke and fire hanging over the ruins. Ward had not slept. He kept one hand on his rifle, the other resting on his knee, always ready. Crag, the alien giant, sat a few feet away, his glowing eyes watching the horizon. He had barely moved through the night, as if his massive body could survive on silence alone. Ward's chest was heavy. He knew he should have left. He knew he should have reported this. But something stronger than duty kept him there. Curiosity. And when Crag finally spoke, Ward realized curiosity was about to change into something far more dangerous. Words in the dust. Crag shifted and dragged his claws into the dirt. Slowly, carefully, he scratched strange symbols into the ground. They looked like sharp lines and curves, almost like war paint drawn onto the earth. Ward leaned closer. "What is that?" The alien tapped the ground, then his own chest. His deep voice growled a word. "Crag." Ward blinked. The alien was teaching him, writing his own name. Ward crouched, pulled a piece of broken metal from the ground and scratched letters next to the alien's markings. W-A-R-D. Crag's glowing eyes studied the letters, then he let out a low rumble. Not a growl this time, something closer to a laugh. For the first time since the war began, human and alien were sharing more than just fear. They were sharing knowledge. The hidden truth. But then Crag drew something else. A circle. Inside it, 3 jagged lines. Then he pointed at the broken skyships lying across the battlefield. He spoke again, his voice full of anger. Ward frowned. "What are you saying?" Crag slammed his fist into the dirt, then tapped the circle again. His eyes burned with fury. It wasn't hard to understand. Those ships, the machines of war, they were not built by humans. They were not built by Crag's people either. Someone else was pulling the strings. Ward felt a chill crawl up his spine. His commanders had always said the giants started this war. They were the threat. They were the reason Earth was burning. But what if that was a lie? "What are you telling me?" Ward whispered. "There's another enemy?" Crag's silence was the answer. Memories of fire. Crag tapped his chest again. This time, he drew another mark in the dirt. A simple shape, a square with burning lines above it. He spoke one word that Ward didn't understand, but the sound carried weight. Ward watched carefully. He realized it wasn't a symbol of battle. It was a home. A burning home. The giant was telling him about his people, about what they had lost. Ward's breath caught in his throat. "Your world," he whispered. "They destroyed it too, didn't they?" Craig's eyes met his, glowing brighter than before. Pain lived in those eyes, ancient and deep, and in that moment, Ward saw it clearly. The giants had never wanted this war. They were fighting for survival, just like humans. Both species were pawns on a battlefield controlled by someone else. Dangerous knowledge. Ward stood, pacing back and forth. His mind raced. If what Craig said was true, everything about this war was a lie. But who would believe him? His commanders? The same people who told him the giants were monsters? No. If he repeated Craig's words, he would be executed before he finished the sentence. He turned back to the alien. "Why are you telling me this? Why me?" Craig's deep voice rumbled. He reached out with a massive claw and tapped Ward's chest right over his heart. Ward swallowed hard. He understood. Because Ward had listened. Because Ward had shown mercy when no one else would. That made him dangerous, not just to his enemies, but to his own people. The unseen eyes. The morning silence was broken by the sound of metal wings. High above, something moved in the clouds. Ward squinted and his blood ran cold. Not human aircraft, not alien ships. Something else. Something darker, smoother, with no markings of any kind. Craig looked up too, and for the first time, Ward saw fear in the giant's glowing eyes. "Who are they?" Ward whispered. Craig didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was already clear. The real enemy was watching. The bond grows stronger. Ward crouched beside Craig again, gripping his rifle tight. His voice shook. "You saved me from my own, man. Now you've given me the truth. If what you say is real, then we're on the same side." Craig stared at him for a long time. Then slowly, he reached out one massive clawed hand. Ward hesitated, then placed his own hand against it. The size difference was enormous. Ward's hand looked like a child's compared to the alien's palm. But in that moment, the bond grew, stronger. Not just respect now, not just survival, something deeper. A shared secret. The price of knowledge. Ward sat back, staring at the rising smoke in the distance. His heart was heavy with the weight of what he had just learned. The war was a lie. The enemy was hidden, and the only proof he had was the trust of a wounded alien giant. He whispered into the cold air, "If they ever find out what I know, I'm already dead." Craig turned his head, watching him closely. In his glowing eyes, Ward saw the same truth. The bond between them was no longer just forbidden. It was dangerous. And it would change everything. The growing bond. The days after the battle blurred into silence and survival. Ward stayed hidden in the ruins with Craig, the alien giant. It was madness. Every second was a risk. But leaving felt impossible now. Something strange had begun between them. Something dangerous. Lessons in shadows. Craig was still wounded, his leg heavy and broken, but every day he forced himself to move. Ward watched, amazed at the giant's will. Even in pain, Craig trained his body, pushing muscles against stone and steel, refusing to be weak. One evening, as the sun bled across the sky, Craig pointed at Ward's rifle. He made a sharp gesture, aim, shoot, strike. Then he shook his head. Ward frowned. "What?" "My aim is fine." Craig grunted, then picked up a piece of jagged metal. With shocking speed, he hurled it across the ruins. It smashed straight through the skull of a broken war machine half buried in the dirt. Ward's eyes widened. The message was clear. Strength isn't just about the weapon, it's about the one who holds it. From that moment, Ward trained differently. He learned how to fight with speed, with raw power, with his hands as well as his rifle, and in return, he showed Crag human tricks, how to set traps, how to move silently, how to read the terrain, 2 soldiers, 2 enemies, teaching each other the skills of survival. Laughter in the ruins one night. Ward slipped on a pile of metal and landed flat on his back. The sound echoed through the ruins. He cursed. Damn it. Crag rumbled a deep sound. At first Ward thought it was another growl. But then he realized Crag was laughing. A giant, terrifying, world-destroying alien was laughing at him. Ward threw a rock weakly at him. Shut up. Crag caught the rock easily, smirking with glowing eyes. For a brief second the war seemed far away. For the first time, they were not enemies, not survivors, just 2 soldiers who had forgotten how to laugh. But laughter was dangerous too, because it meant trust, and trust was the most forbidden weapon of all. Whispers of betrayal. It didn't take long for rumors to spread. Back at the human camp, soldiers whispered of Ward's disappearance. Some said he was dead, others said he had deserted, and one voice, his commanders, spoke with suspicion. Ward has been seen in enemy territory. If he's alive, he's not one of us anymore. Hunters were sent to search the ruins. Ward didn't know it yet, but his own people had begun to look for him, not to rescue him, but to silence him. And in the alien camps, Crag's absence had been noticed too. His kind did not forgive weakness. An alien who bonded with a human? That was worse than death. Enemies on both sides now wanted them gone. The bond deepens. Ward sat beside Crag, sharpening a piece of metal into a blade. His hands were steady, his face grim. We're dead men, he muttered. Both of us. If my people find me, they'll shoot me. If yours find you, they'll tear you apart. Crag watched him silently. Then, with slow, careful movements, the giant placed a massive clawed hand against Ward's chest again, right where his heart beat. Ward felt the thud of his own pulse beneath the alien's touch. He didn't know the word for it, but he understood the meaning. You are not alone. Ward's throat tightened. He had fought alongside men for years, but he had never felt this kind of bond. Strange, unnatural, but stronger than anything before. The warning in the sky. The night sky cracked open with light. Far above, ships moved again, silent, dark, not human, not alien. The same shadowy machines Ward had seen before. Crag stiffened, his eyes burning with fear and fury. He growled a word again and again, pointing to the sky. Ward couldn't understand, but he knew the meaning. They are watching. They are coming. The bond they had built was no longer just survival. It was rebellion. Together they carried a secret too dangerous for either side to know. The path ahead. The next morning, Ward heard it, the faint sound of human boots in the ruins. Search patrols. His people were closing in. He turned to Crag. We have to move. They'll find us. Crag nodded, his massive frame rising despite the pain in his leg. He leaned on Ward for balance. The image was almost surreal, an 8-foot alien giant and a scarred human soldier leaning on each other as they moved through the ashes of war. For every step they took, Ward's heart pounded louder. He knew the truth now. There was no going back. If he returned to his camp, he would be a traitor. If Crag returned to his, he would be a disgrace. Their only path was forward. Together. The quiet. Before the storm that night, they found shelter in the ruins of a burned-out tower. Ward leaned against the wall, exhausted. Crag sat nearby, silent but alert, his glowing eyes scanning the shadows. Ward closed his eyes, but his thoughts refused to rest. He whispered to himself, I don't know if this ends with us saving our people, or dying as enemies of both. The silence hung heavy. Then Crag rumbled one deep sound, steady and calm. Ward didn't know the word, but he understood. It was a promise, no matter what came next. The betrayal, the hunters, the unseen enemy in the sky, they would face it together. Betrayal among humans. The ruins were never truly silent. Somewhere in the distance, Machines groaned as if the earth itself was alive. Ward and Cragg had moved carefully for days, always hiding, always watching the skies for the black ships that were not human, not alien. But Ward's greatest fear was not above them. It was behind him, his own people. The call of home at dawn. Ward finally picked up a faint signal on his broken radio. Static at first, then a voice he knew too well. Ward. This is command. If you are alive, report your position immediately. You are ordered to return to base. Do not delay. Ward froze. His chest tightened. He had dreamed of hearing those words, proof he wasn't abandoned, proof he wasn't forgotten. But as the voice repeated, he felt something colder. There was no joy in that tone, only suspicion. Cragg watched him, silent, glowing eyes fixed on the device. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the weight of Ward's silence. Ward finally shut the radio off. His hand shook. "They're not calling me home," he whispered. "They're calling me in for judgment." The return to base, by nightfall, soldiers found him. A squad of 6 led by Captain Harlow, the man Ward once trusted with his life. "Ward," Harlow said, his voice hard. "Alive after all. You've got questions to answer." Ward kept his face calm, hiding the truth. "I got cut off in the fighting. I survived." But Harlow's eyes narrowed. "Survived where? And with who?" Behind the captain, Ward saw the soldiers scanning the ruins. If they found Cragg, it would be over. Ward forced a smile. "Just me. Alone. But lies are heavy things," and Ward could already feel his breaking. The interrogation. They dragged him back to camp, a place that once felt like safety, but now felt like a prison. Ward sat under the harsh light of the command tent, sweat running down his face. "Commander," Graves stood before him, tall and cold, his voice cutting like a knife. "You disappeared for days, Sergeant. Men saw movement in enemy territory, and when we searched the ruins, we found something strange." He tossed a metal shard onto the table. Alien markings scratched into it, the same symbols Cragg had drawn. Ward's blood turned to ice. Graves leaned forward. "Tell me, Ward, why would an alien leave signs where you were hiding? Unless..." He paused, his eyes sharp as blades. "Unless you were with it." Ward clenched his fists. He wanted to shout the truth, that the giants weren't the enemy, that something worse was controlling the war. But he knew the truth would only get him killed faster. So he said nothing. The sentence, silence, was enough. The commander slammed his fist on the table. "You've broken your oath. You've betrayed Earth. By dawn, you'll be executed." The words hit Ward harder than any bullet. His own people, his own brothers, and not one of them would believe the truth. They locked him in a cage, iron bars, cold against his skin. Outside, soldiers whispered his name with disgust. Traitor. Alien lover. Should have died with his squad. Ward sat in the dark, head low. For the first time, he felt truly alone. But he wasn't. Not yet. The giants return. The ground trembled. At first, the guards thought it was an earthquake. Then the shadows stretched. Cragg stepped out of the darkness. His massive form rose like a mountain, glowing eyes burning with fury. The guards panicked, rifles raised, but Cragg moved with speed no human could match. His claws cut through weapons like paper, his roar shaking the camp to its core. Soldiers scattered, shouting in terror. Ward's heart pounded. "No, Cragg, you shouldn't be here." But Cragg was there, for him. One swipe of his claw shattered the lock on the cage. Ward stumbled out, staring up at the giant. "You came back," he whispered. Cragg lowered his massive head, rumbling a single word Ward didn't understand. But he didn't need to. He knew the meaning. Always. The escape in blood chaos ripped through the camp. Soldiers fired, shouting orders that turned to screams as Cragg tore through steel and fire. Ward grabbed a fallen rifle and fought beside him. Not against his people, but against their blind hate. Don't kill them. Ward shouted. Just break through, Crag snarled, smashing aside a tower, sending men fleeing. The camp burned behind them as man and alien forced their way out into the night. Ward's lungs burned, his body shaking as they finally reached the edge of the battlefield. He looked back once, seeing the place that had been his home now in flames. He had crossed the line for good. There was no going back. The bond in fire. They stopped at the ruins of a broken wall, breath heavy. Ward looked up at Crag, his face pale but his eyes alive with something new. They'll never stop hunting us now, he said. Not them, not your people, not whoever's in those black ships. We're enemies of everyone. Crag stared down at him. Slowly, the alien extended his hand. Ward placed his own in it, human and alien, soldier and giant. Their bond had started with water. It had grown with trust, and now it was sealed in fire and blood. The night swallowed them as they moved forward, hunted by both sides. But together, they were more dangerous than ever, and the war had only just begun. The final battle. The sky was burning. Ward and Crag stood at the edge of the valley, watching as fire rained down from the heavens. Human ships clashed with alien warcraft, explosions ripping the clouds apart. The ground shook as machines and soldiers tore each other to pieces. But above it all, moving like shadows between the stars, were the ships that belonged to neither side. Silent, black, watching. Ward's throat tightened. It's starting. The real enemy is here. Crag's glowing eyes narrowed. He knew. He had always known. Betrayed by both. The battlefield below was chaos. Humans screamed orders, firing into the smoke. Alien giants roared, charging into the fray. And yet both armies turned their weapons when they saw Ward and Crag together. Traitor, a human voice bellowed. Corrupted, an alien shouted in its own tongue. Rockets lit up the night. Arrows of fire aimed not at the shadows above, but at the man and giant who dared to stand side by side. Ward's pulse thundered. They'll kill us both before they ever see the truth. Crag rumbled low, his claws flexing. He was ready. The first strike. The first wave of soldiers charged. Humans, armored head to toe. Aliens, massive and armed with blades that glowed like molten stone. Both sides screamed for blood. Ward raised his rifle. Here we go. Crag roared, a sound so deep the earth shook. He swung a broken steel beam like a spear, sending enemies flying. Ward fired with precision, covering the giants' blind spots. They moved as one. Man and alien, soldier and beast. Not enemies anymore, but something far more dangerous. Allies. Every enemy that fell only made the battlefield more stunned. Whispers spread through the chaos. Soldiers hesitated. For the first time, humans and aliens saw something they had never imagined. Their sworn enemies fighting together and winning. The shadows descend. Then the sky cracked open. From the black ships above, beams of light speared down, cutting through human tanks and alien war machines alike. In seconds, entire battalions were wiped away, ash on the wind. Both armies froze. Silence spread like poison. Ward's heart stopped. They don't care who wins. They're here to kill us all. Crag pointed to the sky, roaring a single word. His voice was fury and fear together. The shadows had revealed themselves. The hidden hand behind the war had stepped into the light. The impossible enemy. The ships opened, and from them descended figures, tall, faceless, armored in smooth black metal that shimmered like liquid. They moved without sound, weapons glowing, with cold fire. Ward's skin crawled. These weren't human. They weren't alien giants. They were something worse, something older. The battlefield that had been full of screams a moment ago went dead silent. Humans and aliens alike froze, staring at the new threat. One of the black-armored figures raised a weapon. In an instant, a line of alien giants were burned to ash. Another blast tore through a human squad, leaving nothing but shadows where they had stood. Ward whispered, "God help us." For the first time, he saw fear on every face. Human, alien, and even Crag's. A choice in fire. The commander of Ward's unit shouted, "Fall back! Hold the line!" But the line was already broken. Another alien general bellowed in fury, ordering his soldiers to fight harder, but their blades shattered against the black-armored invaders like glass against stone. It was hopeless. Ward turned to Crag, breath shaking. "We can't fight them alone. We have to make them see. We're not enemies. We have to fight together." Crag's massive hand slammed against his chest, then pointed at Ward. His eyes blazed. The giant understood. This was no longer about humans or aliens. This was survival. Man and giant, side by side, Ward climbed onto a broken war machine, shouting with every ounce of strength in his lungs. "Look at them. They don't care about human or alien. They'll kill us all the same. If you keep fighting each other, you're already dead." Some soldiers hesitated, rifles lowering. Aliens froze mid-charge. The truth cut deeper than any blade. And then Crag roared, a sound so powerful it shook the battlefield. He raised his massive clawed hand, high, standing beside Ward, not as an enemy but as an equal. For a moment, time held still. Man and giant. And then Crag roared, a sound so powerful it shook the battlefield. He raised his massive clawed hand high, standing beside Ward, not as an enemy, but as an equal. For a moment, time held still. Man and giant. And then the battlefield erupted. Again, but this time humans and aliens turned their weapons not on each other, but on the faceless enemy descending from the black ships. The storm breaks. The battle became fire and steel. Ward fought until his rifle was empty, then grabbed a fallen blade, swinging until his arms bled. Crag smashed through armored invaders with fists and claws, his roars shaking the sky. Humans and aliens fought back to back, dying side by side. But for every shadow they destroyed, two more seemed to rise. The enemy was endless, merciless. Ward's vision blurred, smoke stinging his eyes. "We can't hold them," Crag snarled, shoving him aside just as a blast tore the ground open. The giant's chest smoked where the beam grazed him, but he kept fighting, kept standing. Ward's chest ached. "Don't you dare fall. Not now." The turning point, through the chaos, Ward saw something. A massive control tower, pulsing with light, anchored to the ground by black machines. The source. The heart of the invaders' power. He pointed. "There, that's their core. If we take it down, maybe we have a chance." Crag followed his gaze, his eyes burning with fire. The giant gave a sharp nod. Together, man and alien charged, through fire and death toward the heart of the enemy. And as they ran, Ward realized something terrifying and true. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was the first battle of a much greater war, and he and Crag were now its chosen soldiers. The price of bonding. The battlefield burned. Ward and Crag stood at the center of the storm, both bloodied, both broken, but still moving. Around them, humans and aliens fought together at last, their old hatred drowned out by the greater threat. But the enemy was endless. The black-armored shadows kept falling from the sky, their cold weapons slicing through both armies without mercy. The ground shook with every blast, the air filled with screams and smoke. And yet, through that chaos, one path remained. The tower, the core of the invaders' machines, the beating heart of the enemy. If it fell, maybe, just maybe, the battle could be won. The charge Ward's chest burned as he ran, lungs screaming for air. His rifle was gone, his blade chipped and useless, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Beside him, Crag moved like a mountain in motion, limping on his injured leg but refusing to fall. Every step he took was thunder. Every roar he gave was defiance itself. "Almost there," Ward shouted, pointing toward the pulsing tower. "We take it down, we end this." But the enemy knew. Black-armored figures swarmed to protect the tower, forming a wall of death. Their glowing weapons raised as one, beams of cold fire slicing the air. Ward's heart froze. There were too many. And then Crag moved. The sacrifice. With A roar that split the sky. The alien giant charged straight into the enemy line. His massive body absorbed blast after blast, smoke rising from his chest, his arms, his shoulders. But he didn't stop. Crag. Ward screamed, horror ripping through him. Crag swung like a beast of war, claws tearing through armor, fists smashing invaders into the dirt. Every strike was fury, every step was pain. Ward pushed forward behind him, firing, striking, carving, a path through the chaos. But he knew, Crag was giving everything to keep him moving. The bond they had forged in secret was now carved into fire. But the price was too high. The tower falls. They reached the base of the tower. The machines hissed and screamed, light pulsing like a heartbeat. Ward planted explosives, hands shaking, vision blurring from blood and smoke. "Crag, hold them," he shouted. The giant roared, covering him, his massive frame shielding Ward from the storm of fire. Blast after blast struck his body. His legs buckled, his chest smoked, but he stood. Ward slammed the final charge into place and dove for cover. The explosion tore the sky apart. The tower collapsed in a storm of fire and ash, ripping through the black machines. The enemy's weapons faltered, their formations breaking. For the first time, the invaders staggered. Humans and aliens rose with renewed fury, their voices thundering across the battlefield. Together they pushed forward, driving the shadows back. The impossible had been done. The tower was gone. The final moments, Ward turned, coughing, ears ringing from the blast. Smoke covered the ruins. The air was thick with ash. And then he saw him, Crag. The giant was on his knees, his body burned, his chest rising slowly. His glowing eyes flickered like dying stars. Ward's heart broke. He stumbled to his side, grabbing his massive arm. No, stay with me. You can't go now. We did it. We won." Crag looked down at him, his breath heavy, his voice broken but deep. He spoke a word Ward didn't understand. Then, with shaking claws, he tapped Ward's chest, right over his heart. Ward's throat tightened. He understood. Live. Tears burned his eyes. "Don't you leave me, Crag. Not after everything, not after—" But Crag only smiled. A giant, a monster, an enemy. Smiling. And then his body fell forward, still and silent. The soldiers' salute Ward sat there in the ruins, holding the arm of the alien who had been more than an enemy, more than a friend. He had been a brother in war. Humans gathered nearby, staring in silence. Aliens, too. None spoke, none fired. For a brief, impossible moment, the battlefield was united in grief. Ward rose slowly, his body shaking, and stood over Crag's fallen form. He raised his hand in a soldier's salute, his voice hoarse but steady. "He fought for us all, remember that. He wasn't human. He wasn't alien. He was courage." The words carried across the broken battlefield, and for the first time, humans and aliens lowered their weapons together. The shadow of tomorrow, but Ward knew. The black ships had not all fallen. The enemy was not gone. This was only one battle in a war that stretched far beyond Earth. The tower was destroyed, but the true architects of the war were still out there, waiting, watching. Ward clenched his fists, staring at the sky. His voice was quiet but sharp as steel. "You took everything from him, you took everything from us, but I swear, this bond will not die with him. You want a war?" His eyes burned with fire. "Then you'll get one." The camera of fate pulled back. A battlefield scarred, a giant fallen, a human soldier standing alone but not broken. The forbidden bond had ended in fire and blood, but it had also lit the spark of something greater. Not the end of a story, the beginning of a legend.